Hello and welcome to 4,000 and Counting. I am Nicky Watt. This is Mark. We are brought to you by Hurricane e-bikes, and today we have a very, very special guest. We have Mr. Testimonial himself. He's been in Coventry for 10 long, strenuous years, I can only imagine, having been to Coventry on more than one occasion. It's Elite League head coach, Coventry Blaze head coach, Mr. Danny Stewart. Stewie, thank you very much for joining the 4,000 and Counting podcast. Welcome aboard, mate.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. I think I'm 11 years now, Waddy. So
11.
yeah, yeah.
Like, have you got your own statue?
No, not yet. Not yet. I think if Cub City would have got to the Premiership, I think we're long forgotten. But it's it would have been nice to see them get up. But that's sport, I guess.
What's the relationship like with Coventry City and Coventry Blaze? Is there one there? Is there any sort of like dialogue, communication, or anything? Are you guys kind of like try to feed off each other to perhaps
Not
boost each other's attendances?
not a lot, not a lot. I think from a personal level, not a lot. Maybe in terms of a club, a little bit, but something that we probably could do a little bit more of. I think with Cub City, right, the last 4 or 5 years, there's been a lot of uncertainty with them, stuff going on with new ownership and all that stuff. So, some I think we could definitely build on.
Well, it makes sense, especially in the UK where we're such a football focused market. Like you even tell rugby, which is second biggest sport in this country, you even tell them guys how to steal a few of these football fans. Like it's very difficult because it's your dad's a Man U fan, your granddad's a Man U fan, your uncle's a Man U fan. Like that's it. You're born into it. From the day you're born, you're a Man U fan. It's very rare for the day you're born to be a Coventry Blaze fan. Do you know what I mean? Like it's a completely different thing. You're born into football. You don't have a choice. I'm Glasgow, so I'm Rangers. My family are Rangers. I couldn't just grow up and be like, I'm going to be Celtic. Jesus. Like,
So,
it'd just be unheard of. Like, you'd be getting hidings on a regular. Like,
so me, you, and Keno could never hang out, I guess, eh?
yeah, I know. Me and Keno have had this. He was obviously in Basingstoke. I know Keno very well. But yeah, like obviously, like the podcast started with Jamie McElroy, the most Celtic
The
man
biggest
you've ever
Celtic
yeah,
man.
the
Yeah.
biggest Celtic man you've ever met. So like it'd be Rangers Celtic on a Saturday, and then we'd have a pod on a Monday, and it'd be like whoever won.
Couldn't
The other
speak to
guy
each
was just like
other.
we're
Uh,
just staring each other out. But like it was always in good spirits. But it is a football market, and we've seen like Sheffield United, Sheffield Steelers. I know Sheffield Steelers are actually more like leaning towards going down a Man City route, and they have the connection there. But is there any other sports within the city of Coventry that have maybe reached out to you, or you've reached out to them to kind of bind this juggernaut of professional sport?
oh fuck, you put me on the spot here, Waddy. Not not specifically. I know we had the Cub City's the
So
main one.
sorry, mate. Sorry,
Cub Bears,
just got you swimming off the start.
Cub
My bad.
Bears team is done well. Like there's Cub City football and it's yeah, like I can't say that we work directly with any other clubs in the city, which is maybe, obviously something that it's always good to get a feel for other sports. And I know they're not always related, but in terms of coaching and how the clubs are run day to day, absolutely there's something similar. And no, I think the biggest thing is with Cub City, there's been so much uncertainty with that club the last few years, and you got it's been tough. You got the Wasp that are playing out of
The rugby league.
building
Rugby
society, whatever
union.
you call it now, right? Instead of the Rico, and there's been a lot of that. But the season that Cup City had, you got to tip your hat to them. Unbelievable. Where they've come 4 years is phenomenal.
Let's go to I want to talk. This is going to be a weird interview for you guys and girls that are watching along, because normally when we get this sort of situation with an elite league coach, we're going to go over everything that's kind of current. But Stewie's had a fucking roller coaster, so there's no way that we're not getting into this guy's career dipping in and out. But we're going to keep it. We're going to keep it current. Let's talk about your Coventry Blaze of late. the team that we just saw the back of in 2022, 2023. Assess your season from beginning to end, and like how happy you were as a coach, things that could go better, things that went great, and everything in between.
I listen. I think start to finish, now that we've had time to reflect a little bit, phenomenal season. I think I'm never a guy that talks about budgets much and stuff like that, but I think there's certainly a lot of teams that spend a lot more money than we do, and we try to maximize how we recruit and our budget as much as possible, and maybe trying to find those diamonds in the rough. And you look at our roster, we got Mitch Cook the year before from Belgium. He scored 20 goals. We got JD Dudek from Hockey at 10, the third league in Sweden. He was great for us. We got.
Have you got any shout out for the fucking agents? The boys are using to get guys out of Belgium and hockey at 3.
Got Peyton Franny out of Division 3, and he was phenomenal for us. And Kukali didn't play the year before. We've had a couple guys at SP and East Coast, like Quincy was up and down a little bit, and we ended up with 45 points and was top faceoff guy in the league. So
how much is your head on the block though if you sign a guy like that? Because how much is your head on the block? Like, it's ultimately down to you to make this decision. And when you're going, boys, I'm signing this guy, you never guess, he played in fucking Belgium last year, and they're going, no. And you go, no, seriously, like, I think this guy is legit. If it works, great, you're a superstar. If it doesn't work, like, do you have to go back to the table and go,
I think for the most part, those decisions we've made have ended up successful. And I got to give Mike Kelly and Andy Buxton credit that they give me pretty free rein to make the decisions that I want to make. Right. So in that sense, maybe I have more freedom than some other coaches to make those decisions and live with them. But like I said, more so than not, it's not, I don't try to find guys. Like, a lot of times agents call me and they're like, hey, I got this guy that'll come really cheap. And I'm like, I don't want a guy because he's cheap. I want a guy that maybe has upside and value that I can get on a better deal than I would a guy that maybe is more proven, but I feel maybe has had more opportunity, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
So, I think overall our seasons was really good. Phenomenal. I mean, we finished 5th, but 72 points, 26 points ahead of the next place team. I mean, we were up there slugging it out with the big boys. And
I was going to say, you disappointed.
Didn't you have a really strong start to the season?
Yeah.
We had a really.
You were like up near the top.
Were the top?
Really, right, yeah. And, we had a little patch after Christmas where we dropped a few games, but I don't even want to sit here and make excuses. I don't want to blame it on that. I'll tip my cap to Belfast and Guildford. They were
so good.
From start. They were just consistent. They didn't have any drops. They were great teams, and they just pulled away at the end. And like you said, it's such a fine lines between 2 games here, 2 games there. We had 3 games against Belfast where we were winning in the third period 3 times at home against Belfast, and they ended up winning those games in regulation.
Championship teams find a way, right?
Exactly. And you know what? If you flip those games, the whole league table is a different conversation, right? So,
but as Belfast showed,
yeah, they found a way.
Those games weren't flipped, and they weren't flipped because they weren't afraid. And we go back to budget, but we'll come back to that in a second. They weren't afraid to make changes, and they weren't afraid to make big changes. And they let the goalie go. They bring Besko back. Everyone's like, "What the fuck are you doing? This guy's rocking in at 91 point whatever," and he was legit, and he went Nottingham, and he was still good. He's still a good goalie. Besko came in, he was 94.6, and you're like, you lot can get back in the fucking bin and shush your noise on Twitter and all these fake accounts. We're going to get to that in a minute. Fake accounts and fucking wannabe tough guys on Twitter and, the ultimate keyboard warriors. I know you might have something to say on that. But while we're going at it, like, you bring in Besko. He won the fucking shit for Belfast last year. I watched him in the semi-final, and I don't know what you do. I'm still with Robert Dowd watching it behind the goal. We got the best view in the fucking house of this guy. Robert Dowd, one of the best British scorers ever. I was like, what do you do to this guy here? Look at him. He comes out of his crease and he's on top of the crease and he goes down. I'm like, what do you do? He goes, I don't know. He goes, I don't know. And I'm like, this is Dowdy.
And look, I don't want to insinuate that budgets win you leagues. Like, they certainly help, and I know that more than. But at the same time, you have to do a good job recruiting. You have to do a good job coaching. You have to manage guys. And Kiefer and Thorts and the whole Belfast organization has done a phenomenal job the last couple of years. And if anything, they've probably kind of exceeded the league, really, like in how they do things, right? And I think it's up to everyone else to kind of try and keep up and do things better. So yeah, no, I'm not taking anything away from those guys. They did a great job. Besco is phenomenal. When I seen a couple weeks ago that they posted he was signed back, I was fucking pissed. I'm not
great,
gonna lie.
yeah, fucking.
I just fuck off, please. No. But it is what it is. They're a good club, and he's certainly a good goalie.
When you when it comes to recruitment, actually, I've said this on the podcast for quite a number of months. I've always said that the Coventry Blaze's recruitment and netminding has been solid year on year, and you've just announced a great signing. So talking of good recruitment, you've just picked up an absolute beauty.
I love him.
Yeah, I know. We really like Cozen. You know, he was, even you go back to last season, he was playing behind, you know, certainly a 1A, 1B situation like we talked about. And, you know, he was behind Carruth, and Carruth was a great goalie. But, you know, Cozen's numbers were ridiculous. I think he was like
ridiculous.
But not just save percentage and goals against, like his winning record, like 14-2 or something like that. And he carried that into this year. And you know what? I think, you know, I don't think they defended any better than we did as a team, and his numbers were like 0.75 better than our goalies. And I don't want to take anything from our goalies, but his numbers were like second in the league behind
the charts, mate. Like, it's ridiculous to call this man a 1B is a fucking joke. Like, this guy is a starter in a fucking backups hat. Like, you put a backup hat on him, he's a starter. Like he's a legit number one guy, 92.5, fucking 35-40 wins. He's a legit starter guy.
And when we like, I mean, he plays he's like a third defenseman out there. Like the way
he angles.
Yeah, he's so good. And then to be able, it's the first time ever that we will start a season with two import goalies. And
how do you feel about that, Stu?
How do I feel about it?
Yeah. Do you feel it's?
I mean, we added a guy at the deadline last year, and we went on and having
might be one of the best goalies. I came straight back on this pod. The week you signed him, the week you signed him, you had Guildford away. And put this fucking guy in, right? And I hadn't been to see Guildford this year, and I stood behind the net. I like to stand on the glass and watch a game. I feel like I'm fucking there. I can see everything, and I'm stood behind this mutant fucking little Hungarian kid who's this big, like. And I came back and I said to him, I was like, "Oh my fucking god, you guys beat them 3-1, 3-2." I spoke to Oki. I went and see Oki after the room. He's tamping, he's fucking raging. You boys frustrated him. And then this guy, he brought in this guy at this point of the season who was phenomenal.
Yeah, he was good. And you know what,
phenomenal.
Pavo, I think Pavo
he battles for pucks. Like, love
absolutely. Him. And I think we saw the benefit. I mean, I think the league's too good now, and it's too much of a grind to expect one guy to play every game. It is.
I agree.
We just had to find the resource to try and justify it. And you know, we got Will Bray to be in there as our number 3, and he's a kid that works his ass off. And this is the crazy thing. Like we've had some comments. I was like, "Oh, Will Bray needs games. He needs to do this," and I don't disagree with that. But like
not at the elite league level.
When we signed Will Bray, he didn't even have a team to play for, right? And we gave him the opportunity to face elite league shooting day in, day out. And we know he's not ready. He knows he's not ready, but it allows him to play. Now,
they don't understand those three. They don't understand.
If an NIHL team wants to take him for some games, 100%. I'm actually calling teams now, and I'm like, I want him to play games. But I understand that the NIHL teams, they need to win games as well because they got their own business.
It's their business, right?
So, but like at the end of the day, no, it's a good situation to have in, and we're thrilled to have both Kent and Cozen and Bray as well.
So you've obviously talked about like the import numbers in time. Well, you haven't, but kind of the way you're talking about the goalies there. Each team's now got an extra import going in. Me and Mark had a video yesterday, and we came out and we talked about Jason Morgan coming at the Clan. County goes there. Ferguson stays. Danskin's gone. Stenton's gone. Peacock's gone. And when it comes down to like, and by the way, I wish you fucks wouldn't up the import numbers. I really wish you wouldn't. But on this one circumstance, yeah, on this one circumstance, wait, I was going to come back. I've got you, yeah? I've got you because I couldn't pick 3 other guys to go to Glasgow. And that's only 3, let alone 4. I could not pick 3 British players in the entire fucking country that'll go to Glasgow. Let alone go to Dundee. Let alone go into the Stars. We know McBain's gone back. We know Moore's gone back. I don't know anything about Fife yet. But I'm trying to pick like 4 guys to go to Glasgow that will make a difference and be a difference maker and not just be a fucking British kid sitting on the bench. And honestly, I was too sat here like
trying to think of names.
Mate, I've got nothing. I don't have a Brit for you. I don't have a Brit for you to come in and go up there and make an impact. I genuinely don't. I said maybe Luke Ferrara. He leaves Nottingham. Maybe he fills the Craig Peacock role. If he wants to move, he's just got engaged today. Shout out Feds. Congratulations, my man. But now does he want to like, he's just getting engaged. He's probably going to get married very soon here. Maybe babies. Does he want to go up there? Mate, it's so hard. And I can understand why you guys voted to go to the extra import.
There's so many elements that go into it. And whether I agree with the extra import, I don't know. I'll be honest, I'm a big supporter of the British guys, and any Brit that's ever played for me will tell you that I treat them just as the same as an import. There's no difference for me between the two. They're both my players. But I think there's an argument both ways. I understand the frustration from certain people that want to see British development, but at the same time, I understand it being in the position I've been in from the Elite League and what we see, the negotiations we have with some of the top Brits and some of the even mid-tier Brits that just think that they can just take the world from teams because there's not a lot out there. And it's a very difficult situation. Is there a right answer? I don't know. I don't think so. But I think certainly, everyone wants to put blame on the Elite League, on Ice Hockey UK, on the national team program. But I think the one thing I always say is like, let's look at like realistically in the UK, there's not enough ice rinks. There's not enough money, and there's not enough coaching at the grassroots level. And if we could, and a lot of that comes down to the money. Like, if we had the ability to train coaches and we had the resources to train coaches to bring guys up and there was more ice time available.
We have it, Stewie. They're just not fucking spending it, mate. Like we have it, they're just not spending it.
Listen, I don't know that. I do. I just think at the end of the day, like, the reason that more of these kids, 14, 15, are going to Canada, going to US, is because they can get on the ice 5, 6, 7 times a week. They can get proper training programs rather than being on the ice. Like our kids in Coventry, they get on once, maybe twice at the most. Very, very difficult to develop anybody at that rate.
Well, Stewie, like, imagine your age now. How old are you, Stewie?
I'm 44.
Right, okay. Let me say to you, right, tomorrow you got to take up table tennis. But you're only allowed to practice an hour a week. Then you get 2 matches at the weekend, and you got to be a fucking pro. You'd be like, what? What the fuck do you mean? I've got to play like
Doesn't
1
work.
hour practice, 2 games at the weekend, and then I'm a pro. You'd be like, you're mental. You're you're absolutely mental. It never happened.
I'm pretty good at table tennis.
Yeah, but you know what I mean, though? Like, is you can't just step in from an hour of something that somebody else has dedicated 1,000 hours to, and you've dedicated 50 hours an entire year. They've dedicated 1,000. You can't compete.
Look, 100%. I went to when I think it was 13 when I went to Notre Dame in Saskatchewan, Notre Dame College, and I mean, you were on the ice every single day, 7 days a week, and you had a training program, and it's even exceeded it now. I mean, all these academies that are popping up, and the amount of coaching and development, I mean, it's another level, and you can't blame kids that are 14 to 17 that are going to these colleges, these schools to get better, because there's nothing in the UK that is even remotely comparative.
We don't have our own systems in place, do we?
And we've lost Okanagan, which was the only thing that was kind of like it, but they were then dummying everybody, and then it was kind of like a counterproductive argument because they had no one to play against. They got all this fantastic training, and they got all this fantastic gym work, and sure, you know it's like when you're a young kid and you get to live with your mate, and you fucking live with a bit, and you go and do these things, and then you're like all of a sudden, man, you're 15. You're like, you're not living at home anymore. You're fucking out on your own, and you're expected to just, and you mature, mate. You mature into a man, like,
yeah, absolutely.
But you're getting better. That was the one thing that we had here, and we've just fucking taken it away because there's nobody for them to play against, and it's a shame because look at the guys that come through that Matt Howlett, Harry Gulliver. There's so many guys that are either in the elite league or the national league that came through that program under Ryan Aldridge, under Peter Russell, under Steve Nell. That was a very good stepping stone in the UK, but ultimately these things cost money, and it all comes down to money. But why are the fucking governing bodies not looking at like developing some kids? Because you boys are going to be screwed in about 3 years, let me tell you. You're going to be going fucking pinata style trying to find a Brit. Because there's not going to be any, mate. There's going to be none. I'm telling you.
I don't disagree with you, and maybe that's the wake-up call. But here's the thing. Everyone beats around all these answers, right? Like, what's the answer? Well, what is the actual answer, right? Like, and unless there's investment, and I'm not just talking from Ice Hockey UK, I think the government, cities, building ice rinks and taking ice hockey serious. I mean, the success of the national program playing at the top level should spur a little bit of interest. And, us being the top attended indoor sport in the UK, there should be more, I think, urgency from government to put some resources towards ice hockey. And
let's say there's 400 members of parliament sitting on a semi-busy day. How many of them do you think know that our national team have just qualified for the biggest fucking worldwide competition in men's ice hockey outside of the Olympics? Out of those 400, how many do you think even fucking know we exist?
Well, unfortunately, not a lot of them. Yeah.
Is that down to the BBC and the ITV? You've been here long enough. Like, you're not a new import coach where I say that and they go, like, you've been here for a long time. Like, there are major networks. By the way, I'm quite happy to say on here, I cancelled my TV license. I literally watch nothing on terrestrial TV, and I haven't for years. I think they could stick it. But there's millions and millions and millions of people who do. Right? And there's way more millions of people that do than have ever had fucking Premier Sports, that have ever had Viaplay, that have ever had any of these fucking fly-by-night networks that come in and they're here 1 year and they're gone the next. BBC, Channel 4, Channel 5, whoever it may be, if we could get our product on that network, as much as I disagree with some of the political side of them, how else do we grow the game in this country in order to, like you said, we're the most watched indoor sport, but yet like we get treated like that we don't even exist. GB win promotion, and you can't even get like a little thing along the bottom of the BBC or the fucking Sky News going, "Oh, by the way, our boys, they just knocked their pan in for a week and a half. They won gold, and they're going back up to face the best nations in the world." Whereas you probably get like some sort of like cross country runner who finished 27th in some alpine race, and they're like, "Oh, he's going to qualify for the world champs," and they're bumming him up for like 4 minutes. So what the fuck are we talking about here?
I'm not going to sit here and claim to be smart enough to read or recognize, what the answer is. Like I said, I think I don't know. Maybe it takes a committee of people that are fighting at the national level to kind of perk more interest in ice hockey. And like I said, I think cities to have ice rinks. I mean, I know certain cities certainly benefit from it. I mean, there's not just ice hockey, right? There's ice skating, there's figure skating, there's public skate, which from what I've seen in the UK is full all the time. I mean, you go down to Guildford before a game, there's like 500 people on the ice. I mean, they must be
doing the barrel roll right where you're going to set up your PP1 right there. Yeah.
So I mean, there must be a scope and interest for it, and I think to have ice hockey rinks in most cities, I think would only be beneficial. I think it's something. I don't think in the UK there's enough for kids. I think there's enough for kids at a younger age, but once they hit those teenage years, like I go to a lot of parks in Coventry, there's no basketball courts, there's no soccer pitches in public areas. I mean, I almost feel like you have to be part of a club to get anything in the UK.
Right. It's Mark, go. Sorry.
Yeah, I've gone for. There's a lot of talk about plays and development and stuff, and with the Elite League getting better year on year, there's been obviously the controversial tweet from Scott Conway, and I'm not going to ask you what you think of the officials, but what I will ask is, how do you think that we can improve? I'm not going to ask you because it's genuinely still in the Elite League. But what I want to ask Danny is, how do you think we could approach improving the standard of the officiating?
Look, I don't mind answering this because I'm still in the Elite League. I think, you know what, Scott Conway is a very good hockey player, and he's had a lot of success in Belfast.
He's not as good as his dad, though. Let's have that. Let's have that right as a Basingstoke Beavers Kevin Conway #1 fan. Team Kevin number 10.
I certainly respect him as a player, but to go out like that because he's moving on is
Bush.
I think it's fun. I think it's absolutely bullshit. I look, at the end of the day, I'm as hard on the refs during games as anybody, but I have the utmost respect for the refs in our league because they're doing this, and everyone can say, oh, they're doing it part-time, but these guys do the best job that they're capable. And I'm not saying that they do a bad job at all. I actually think Christmas onward, I thought the refereeing was pretty good in our league. Now, there's always going to be people that are disgruntled with calls, fans that think non-calls cost them a game, coaches that think non-calls cost them a game. But I think our refs did a very good job in the last half of the year, and I'm so tired of everyone just scrutinizing the refs, because at the end of the day, we're the Elite League in the UK, right? There's NHL, American League, there's multiple leagues in Europe that are better level than us. Like, are we going to highlight every mistake a player makes? Or are we going to highlight every mistake a coach makes?
This is my favorite, Stewie, though, because you touched on it perfectly. Me and Mark talked about it on our episode this week, right? And it fucking blew our social media up. I can't explain. It blew it up.
Yeah.
And the comments were going, well, when I watch NHL, like, the refs aren't like this. I'm like, because the only two teams that you watch are Tampa Bay Lightning and fucking Belfast. You don't know about Sweden, Leklo Lakers. You don't know about Mannheim. You don't know about Red Bull. You don't know about any of this in between. And you're comparing an Elite League official who works 9 to 5 in insurance and drops in and does some ice hockey games to the best officials in the world, yet you're not doing the exact same with the players. You're not going, Why the fuck is Nikita Kucherov not on our first line power play? Why is he not like dangling guys and going backdoor shelf? But you're expecting the refs to be NHL level because it's the only two ice hockey experiences you have. You have Elite League and you have NHL. You don't have anything in between that. You have no knowledge.
But Waddy, that doesn't matter. For me, that's irrelevant because I'm not a big social media guy. I got Facebook to stay in touch with a lot of my friends and family and stuff like that. And I don't pay too much attention to it, but I'll admit I take a peek every once in a while. But certainly during the NHL playoffs, and I mean, if you look at Toronto Maple Leafs fans, the reason why they're not in the next round is because of the refereeing. If you look at, the NHL refs, the best of the best in the world, they get torn to shreds as much as anybody else.
Yeah.
And look, at the end of the day, like I said, I've got, Scott Conway is a hell of a player. He's not one of my guys. I've never had him day to day, so I can't speak about his character. But to leave the league and go out like that after a great couple of years in Belfast, I think is very poor. And, I don't agree with it. I think there's...
What about Nat Halbert then? He came out and handled that situation like
perfectly.
an ultimate professional. And he probably said everything he said in a way he said that everybody at the Elite League table goes, okay, there's a genuine guy.
It was constructive.
There's a genuine guy here who's fucking legit, let me say. Mind you, this guy is a serious ice hockey player, and he didn't single out Scottish guys. He didn't single out anybody in particular, but he said the inconsistency. And mate, I've been a player, you've been a player, we know the fucking drill. It's nothing worse when like you can go out on your first shift of the game, you run a guy and it's a clean hit, and you then go out your second shift of the game and you run a guy and it's a dirty hit. It's the exact same fucking play that you just made, and the ref goes 2. And then like nothing happens in the second, then you play the third period, and then you get called again for the same thing. And you're like, okay, right. We don't know what's going on here. Like, we can't play this game because we don't understand how you're reffing it. Yeah, I understand the frustration, but the way he did it was classy.
And you know what? Obviously, I had Albie this year, and it is. But you know what? Opinions are opinions. And, at the end of the day, fuck, it's not an easy job being a ref, man. I think the biggest thing for me is that, like, with video and the angles that we get as spectators, as coaches, as players after the fact, in hindsight, it's so easy to say, "Whoa, that guy made a bad call," but live in person at the speed of our game, it's tough. To see what was it? Was it Florida when they clinched the series against Toronto, and the guy held the guy going to the net? And
that's right.
Like, from a ref, like, that's such a clever play from that player, and people are
Gudas. Gudas, brilliant play.
Like, so, and then everyone's like, fucking refs, like the Toronto Maple Leafs were cheated. So, like, to see that in person is so tough. That's a split second. And I'm going to sit here. I'm going to defend the refs in our league. Could they get better? Yes. But I could get better as a coach. Every player in this league could get better as a player. So we can sit here and shit on them all we want. But at the end of the day, I do feel in the last couple of years they've gotten slightly better. Is there still room for improvement? Yes. But I think they're doing it as best they can. And I hate the fact that guys leave here after given the opportunity to do what they do and shit on the refs. I think it's poor. Very boring.
And the other thing is, I don't know, and I know I'm a UK podcast, and this might go down real bad, but you fucking clowns are coming over to come play in the UK. So why'd you fucking necks in? Know your level. You know your level, yeah? Hey, Mannheim weren't fucking calling you to come and fill their books last year. Lakeland weren't calling you to come and fill your fucking books last year. You were here for a fucking reason, because you are not do you know what I mean, though, Stewie? Like, these guys that are throwing shade, they need to remember where the fuck they are in comparison to
Waddy. Give me a second, yeah. So I've had players in the past that have said to me, 2 months into the season, well, we didn't do this in the DL, we didn't do this in the American League, and my simple answer is like, we'll go back to the fucking American League.
If you're welcome there, mate, you wouldn't be here.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So, I'm not saying that there isn't something that we should address, or isn't some we should always be addressing, getting better in all aspects of our league, whether it's on the ice, refereeing, whatever.
Mate, whether it's chuck or puck or shut off the back.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Like, we want to get better, but to have our guys shit on our doorstep on the way out, like, hey, do you know how much more fucking strong-minded and beneficial this tweet would have been in February? When the league was still going on? And there was some, like, real shit. Like, I could get in fucking serious.
There'd be some implications to that.
Yeah, there could be some implications. Or the league could turn around and go, actually, we've got our MVP of 2 years in a row coming out in March saying, hey, this needs to be looked. But Nathaniel Halbert, yeah, he addressed it properly. I don't think Scott Conway was wrong with what he said. It was the way he said it. But if that was said in fucking February, March, when the season's still going on and all the bright lights and the cameras are still going on, a lot of these Elite League fans, they're not like me and Mark. They're not like me and you. They're not watching and understanding what's going on in the summer. They can give a shit. They're not coming back until September the 16th. They left in April and they're not coming back. They don't care. Nothing. Doesn't mean shit for them. But for the ones that are watching, it's a kind of a bit like oh, you're going to walk out the door and you're going to do that. And I'm not saying Scott Conway's right. I'm not saying he's wrong. But for my favorite comment, and again, I'm not saying he's right or wrong, my favorite comment underneath one of the tweets was, you fucking turned down the chance to play for your country in February. Your opinion no longer fucking matters. Well, as a fucking Brit, I'll leave that right there.
Yeah, good.
I'll leave that right there. But what I won't leave right there is something else that's been going on Twitter, because like GB rumors, man, they've been having at it, and I know they've been running riot with you. You're a head coach now. You were an ex-player. You played for Danbury. You played for fucking everybody in between. You played up in Fife. Like, you know the drill. But what do you make of, like, when you get these rumor pages? Mate, they're quite clearly not fucking rumor pages. It would be like me having a 4,000 encounter insider page. You know I know. I know. Mark knows I know. Mark knows I know Mark knows. We know about what's going on. So if we were to do this, it would be unfair to the UK fucking teams because we are such a small market. Imagine if we just kiboshed every announcement you guys are about to make with, oh, by the way, Blaze were about to sign Hazeldine and Hopkins. But only when I knew. Like, I already knew you guys were signing months ago, but that's not the thing. You don't do that. How do you find that as a head coach, as an owner, all that?
My thoughts on that is, like I said, I'm not always on there, but like my equipment guy Ethan Kane, he's a social media connoisseur, right? So that goes through there. He lets me know, but the GB rumors page, it's not a rumor site. It's a knowledgeable site. It's somebody that has inside information, whether it works for the league media somewhere where players' signings are filtering through. It's not somebody that's knowledgeable. It's not somebody that knows.
Like Elliot Friedman levels, of the guy that's in the know.
Yeah. It's somebody that is getting information
inside
and choosing to ruin the announcement for the so-called clubs to get their information out there. And I disagree. I mean, listen, we could sit here and, like you said, you guys have your podcast and you can talk about possibilities. Like, I've heard that this guy might be going here, or this guy would be good in this market, but there's no rumors on that site. Every single thing that they tweet is true. So
this guy's running like 100%. He's like one of the guys you see, follow me for Ascot racing tips. And like, you're like, okay, this guy's won 15 out of the last fucking 20 races. He's in the stables. Like, he's a jockey, he's an owner, he's a summit. This guy is doing, mate, he's
inside
like,
job.
He's batting it like fucking 83 right now. Like he's not getting shit wrong. Like he's batting at 83. Like it's a joke.
I think it's 95. I mean,
yeah, it might be. It might even be 95.
At the end of the day, I compare it to what's the little guy's name on the movie 300? What's the little guy's name that hunched over with the sword?
Yeah, I know who you mean.
He wants to be.
No.
He wants to be
part of the crew. Yeah, he's got the sword. He's got the stick and the fucking shield.
And he gets the inside information, and then he ends up telling the other army in the end. But that's who I compare it to. I mean, I don't understand what joy somebody gets.
In such a small market that we are ultimately our niche, and this is what I'm explaining to people, like telling people like our channel has just got over like 1,000 on YouTube. Obviously, we've got like 6,000 on Facebook and all the other ones, and it's quite well supported on there. But we're new to this. Getting over 1,000, they were like, yeah, you're actually in a very, very niche market. And how'd you grow and how'd you do it? And I'm like, well, we grow it by like, we keep bringing people inside information, but the right way, like inside information from a coach like yourself, as opposed to, right.
We could have spoiled the summer of signings. Could I have
found out that you sound Kuzon like 2 weeks ago if I wasn't a new dad and I fucking wasn't working and doing other shit? Yeah, of course I fucking could have. But I'm not here to ruin the Coventry Blaze party. Like, I'm here to talk about it when you go, we signed Kuzon. So next time me and Mark do a roundup next week, we go, fuck, yeah, they've just signed this guy. He's done this. And we could talk about it. Me ruining, like, the Coventry Blaze thing. You just make the Coventry Blaze hate us as a podcast, which is fucking stupid because we're all trying to go in the same road as in, like, grow the sport. So we want the teams with us. Me ruining that. Some little prick on Twitter, though, on the other hand, who's never been inside a locker room, who's never put a fucking set leg pads on and taped them up and went out there and blocked a shot from someone that shoots puck 100 miles an hour. They don't understand. From someone that's jumped into a fight with their boy against Soupy. You fought Soupy. I fought Soupy. Hey, when you drop your gloves opposite that man, you go, this might not be very fun for me. But shit, it was my teammate's fault, but I'm still going to do it. They don't understand that. They don't have that. They don't have that.
I don't see the joy in it. And that's my opinion. I don't expect everyone to agree with me. I just don't see the joy. If you have firsthand information, why you want to ruin it for teams, and that's it. That's obviously what it is. And like it's obviously somebody that either works for the league or works for a specific club, or I don't know. I just to be so accurate all of the time.
It's not Joe Blogs from the pub, is it?
No.
Like not with a like they're batting like ridiculous. They're Barry Bonds on the juice, like knocking homies out the park for fun.
Yeah,
that's no fun for the rest of us clubs. And what these people don't understand, like I know through 4,000 and counting, like when Hurricane sponsor us, when we put a post out sponsored by Hurricane, and then there's this and there's that. What the fuck do they want to do that if John from down the block's announcing all the signings before you even get there?
Yeah, I'd like I said, let's agree that I just don't see the reasoning. I don't see the joy in it. I don't see anything in it, anything beneficial other than being a bearer of information, and that's all it is, really.
Right, let's go something positive then. Something really positive, and Nottingham's fuck up is your gain. You prize arguably the two youngest best prospects in the entire league away from Nottingham. They've both come to you. They're going to be playing with you full time next year. No two ways. Archie Hazeldine and Jack Hopkins. Hopkins scored in the semi-final, and then he scored in the third vs fourth game, which arguably was the most viral moment of the Elite League season when his boy there went through the legs, cross-eye sauce, and Hoppo batted it out the air for fun. What's it going to be like for you having a couple of different young Brits in the mix? And what's it like for you to take those players off of Nottingham, who are arguably one of your biggest competition around that mid-table, trying to get into the upper echelons?
Oh, you might upset some people from Nottingham comparing.
Yeah,
they can suck my wang. I don't give a shit.
No, but listen, I'm excited to get these two guys. I like both of them last season when we played against them. We did a lot of video Keno had both of them at the U20s, and obviously got to know their character and how coachable they were, and their drive to get better, and both of them certainly want to get better. And I think it's important for us. Obviously, we lost. I mean, losing Venus and Forbes is huge for us, and we had to act quickly, and we had to replace them. Are we replacing them like for like? I don't know. I mean, we'll see. I mean, Venus is hugely experienced, and the last 3 years, I think he's been second top Brit scorer, very underrated. So whether Jack Hopkins can fill that void, I don't think so right away.
I think personally he has more offensive upside.
Maybe you're right. I'm not disagreeing with you, but I think at 19 years old, he's certainly got a ways to go. And what I want to do is I don't want to put pressure on these two guys that they're going to jump in and be full-fledged GB players.
Yeah, my marriage and mortgage is on this kid. Like, let's go here. You might get a hat here.
There are two kids that they got a taste of the Elite League last year. And, they both got potential. They both have the right attitudes, which is hugely important. And I think that was a big reason why we brought them on board. And it gives us a lot of depth too. And hopefully they can then adapt to full time every day. You're going to be in the lineup every day. And, I think the amount of ice time they get will be based on what they're like and how they perform.
When it comes to young Brits, do you ever keep your eye on what goes on in the NIHL National?
I certainly do, yeah.
Go further, go faster, get fitter. Subscribe today. Hurricane e-bikes have a great range of bikes available on the e-bike subscription plans. The Cruiser e-bikes are perfect for beach rides, long distance rides, or just everyday use. The Fat Bike e-bikes look great and can cope with the toughest terrain, perfect for off-road adventures. The hybrids range are perfect for about town, everyday use and leisurely rides with the family. Take your ride to the next level with the mountain bike and get ready for your next power-assisted adventure. So when it comes to recruitment and young Brits in particular, are you wary of the talents within the NIHL National?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it'd be ignorant to not look at what's coming through, and it's very tough in the UK. I know there's a lot of discussion about it. Certain guys should be at this level and shouldn't be at this level. But, I think the fact that the Elite League and the National League don't essentially work together, it makes it very difficult. And at this
same thing about the juniors as well. It's not just the Elite and the National, it's the juniors. There's no 1, 2, 3.
Exactly. And I understand from everyone's standpoint, I understand their reasoning, like from the Elite League, it's very difficult to say, give a top guy in the NHL an opportunity. If you don't, I'll use us as an example, because that's the most knowledge I have. So Coventry. So, I could say, go and offer a guy a certain wage and more than he could make in the NHL. But to justify that, he needs to be able to play in my top 9. He has to be a third line guy at the very least, or a top 4 defenseman. If not, from our standpoint, I can't offer him to be a 10th or 11th forward what he would make as being the top guy in Leeds or the top guy in MK, right? So,
can I interject real quick to keep it relevant?
Yeah.
Why can you then, and I'll use you for this example, and then I'll broaden it as a league-wide structure. Yeah. Why the fuck can you guys take a gamble on a guy from the SP, the FP, the fucking CIS Sports, U Sports, NCAA 3? Why can you take a gamble on a guy like that at $450 a week and not a fucking British kid at $450 a week, when you know as well as I do, Stewie, you've played in the Elite League and you've played with these guys in lower leagues. Some of these guys are fucking horrible, and they're getting a paycheck for nothing, which a young Brit could easily do that job. Don't get me wrong, every now and again you're going to get a diamond in the rough that comes over from U Sports or from the SP. You're going to get a David Beauregard who's only in that league because he's got one eye, but he's going to score you 50 goals. Okay, you're going to get that. But for every David Beauregard, you're going to get 10 guys that ain't worth a shit of a Brit.
But Waddy, we're like, okay, you're all over the place. Like David Alexander Boger, I played with him in 2 different occasions. He was a 50-goal guy, and
That's what I'm saying. Stud from a lower league.
But here's my response to you is that I can take a chance off a guy off U Sports or NCAA Division 1, Division 3, because like I'm very select. Say like there's different scales. Like Division 1 hockey,
Amazing.
a top Division 1 team, the University of Minnesota, North Dakota, Boston College, Quinnipiac would
NHL
come
program.
over and they would beat any of the teams in the Elite League.
Smash the teams
So,
in the Elite League.
Obviously, if I'm specifically recruiting a guy from one of those programs, I'm not exactly taking a chance on those guys.
Yeah, but they're not the guys that are coming at $450 a week that you'd be compared to the Brits. They're the guys that are coming at $850 a week, 900, 1,000. I'm talking about the SP guys, the U Sports guys, the guys that are at 450, 500 quid a week that a Brit could take that opportunity. That's the guy. I'm not talking about a guy that was a fucking gopher and went to the Frozen Four and scored like a backhand clapper in the fucking final. I'm not talking about that guy. I'm talking about the guy that played for the Carolina fucking Stingrays in the East Coast. Then they went down to the whatever SP or whatever. He's now playing there, and you bring him in to be your 10th, 11th forward instead of bringing a British kid from the NIHL in to fill that role at the same money, who's arguably just as good as this fucking plug. And we find out when they get 4+ fucking 11 on the season that, yeah, a British kid could have done that job. I think that's the thing that pisses the fans off and maybe some of the players.
But this is where there's like you're not being very specific. And what I mean by that is it's all well good saying that guy that plays in the East Coast League and gets sent down to the SP. Well, he might have got sent down to the SP because they've got guys on NHL contracts.
I know the structure.
And he's actually a good player that just needs an opportunity. And I will say more times than not, that guy is going to be a better hockey player than the guy that's just played U20s and has played his first year in MK and played in the NHL. So it's very...
But that guy might only be there for a year, whereas you get that guy from U20s and you give him some Danny Stewart fucking love on the bench, you give him a little cuddle, and you might have that kid for fucking 10 years in your organization if you're Coventry, if you're Manchester, if you're Fife, if you're Dundee, and not arena team that can go, hey, here's £900 a week and a fucking house and a car. You guys can't do that. I respect that.
It's absolutely situational. And you know, I could have, for example, said to myself, like, we've lost Ross Venus for his salary. We need to find a Brit. Now, it goes both ways. Which Brits can replace Ross Venus now for that salary? Not many. Okay. So that shrinks your... Now,
so limited pool.
Those Brits that we come up with, that short list that we come up with, will they come to be here for the money that we're going to pay them? Or can they make more in, say, Leeds and then work on top of that and make double the money? Okay, so it's not always the Elite League team that's made the decision. There's certain players in the NHL, and I don't fault them for it, but choose themselves to stay at that level.
It could work out more expensive having one of these Brits come up as well. Like,
okay, tell me, Stu, then. Yep. Tell me, Stu, because I did the Elite League thing in my first year. Then I went EPR, and I did a little bit of two-way, and then I got offered to go to fucking different bits and places. I could never see. Don't get me wrong. The green light was always to play for GB. Yeah, as a British kid, play for the national GB team. And at one stage, when I scored 65 points, and Tony was the fucking GB coach in EPL, he's like, "What? I'm going to look at you." It didn't work out, whatever. And that would have been the pinnacle of my career to be able to do that. But at that time, I was running my hockey camps. I was doing other things away. Like, I had another job. There was no way on this planet that I could fraction my wage, move up to Glasgow, or go to Coventry, or go to wherever it may have been at the time, and just basically move that out of my family home. Actually, that's not even true. this was my problem as well, Stewie. I actually moved out my family home at 18, so I had my own kind of digs by the time I was 19. So I was already paying on the place, and I was already doing things like, so for me to have moved, it would have just been a logistical nightmare. And for ultimately, my goal was never to play in the elite league as such. It would have been playing for the national team. How would you get me from that to that and guide me through that situation? If I was your kind of 17-year-old, how do you guide me through that situation as what an elite league coach is now? How do you get me through that and go, right, this is maybe what you need to do for your entire future career, but for now you need to do this, you need to be educated, or I don't know. How do you take a young guy now?
I think Waddy, initially in that comment you answered your own question, right? I think like that's a big reason why certain guys don't end up in the elite league level, is because they have other things going on. So my answer to you is how can a 17, 18-year-old get to that point? I think the first thing is to actually believe in yourself that you can make it and you can be a top Brit in the country and commit yourself to ice hockey, right? Like, and I'm not saying that's the route that everyone should take. There's guys that get to 19, 20 that have outgrown the current leagues they're in. Their only choice is to play in the NHL and then to start at that league and maybe it's not the best money in the world. So they get a job on the side, they start finding a trade, and then 2 or 3 years down the road, that becomes their priority. And I don't have a problem.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to turn a trade down when you're making like 1,500 quid a week from your trade, and you're gonna go, I'm gonna go up to the elite league and play for $450 a week. You're like,
listen, 100%. I get it.
So how does the elite league get into these boys before they sign that 1,500 quid a week bricky deal? Like we spoke about it on here. Like, do we do like some academy prospect? Like they do. Did you listen? I don't know if you listened to the Joey Lewis episode. If you didn't, what they do in Germany, DL2, they have 4 guys on central contracts, right? And these guys are between the ages of 16 and 21. And the DL2 teams pay these boys 52 weeks a year. They're the only boys in the entire organization that get paid 52 weeks a year. Yeah. They have a house in the summer and they have access to ice, and they get fucking beasted by the PT for 4 months in the off season. Guess what? When it comes around to the next season, these 4 motherfuckers are ready to play at that level. And guess what? There's 4 more kids coming on the back of that. And now, mate, we're talking 4,800 euros a month. What's that over here? 4 grand. It might seem a lot, but in the longevity of it and the long time of it, where are we going to get the next Jonathan Weaver, Jonathan Lewis? Not Jonathan Lewis. Sorry, go on.
Answer to that is logistics of everything. So obviously, if we make that commitment as a country from the top, if we make that commitment as a country from the top, and it has to start from the top, that these are the resources, we're going to put this in place, build more rinks so that everyone has that access, because that's not like I can't.
But what about for the access that we already have, Stuart? I know you've said it a couple of times, build more rinks, but mate, that's not happening. What about the rinks that we got? We need plans with the rinks that we've got, because we ain't getting no more rinks. No one's giving us any more rinks. It's not happening.
Waddy, there's no simple answer. It's so well and good comparing us to Germany and stuff like that, but those guys have access. A lot of those teams own or run their own rinks. Like, I can't go to Planet Ice and say, hey, we need ice 3 days a week. We can't be paying 1,500 pounds a week to get 3 ice times a week so we can have our guys come in, because it's not financially sustainable. It's comparable. So like, this is what I mean. If every team in our league controlled their rink, you're talking different level.
Yeah.
Different.
Agree.
But what would it take then? Okay, Stewie. So obviously, do you have any fucking no shit. Do you have any ownership stake in Coventry? I know you've been there for a while now. You in on them? No. The boys are keeping the Danbury boy right the way down the back of the bed. But no,
I'm saving up for the statue.
Yeah, saving up for the Lewis Capaldi statue outside the Sky Dome. But jokes aside, though, I know you're not in it, but other guys are. Kiefer, fucking Todd, Thorns. There's guys in the league that I really, really, really respect. Yeah, like respect more than fucking a lot of people in UK hockey. If these motherfuckers can't make it work, then I don't know what we're gonna do. But we need to start bringing ideas to the table, because in a hot minute, we're going to be at an 18 import league, and it's going to be disgusting. And I was with the 1 import increase because I understand the situation, because me and Mark have sat on this podcast and we've went, right, if you're Coventry, who'd you sign? And mate, we're going for you right now. And this is we're going, who should we sign? This guy's got no, he's not going back to the national. Oh, Venus has gone down. This guy gone. Oh no, he's going down to the national. Oh no, he on the leads. Oh, and then you're like, who the fuck does this guy sign? He's got nobody. He's literally got nobody. And we don't want you just to sign a Brit though. And we said this on this podcast before. Don't just sign a Brit for the sake of signing a Brit, to fucking say, hey, little Johnny, guess what? Well done, you made a Coventry Blaze, and you're going to play a grand total of 0.25 fucking shifts this season. That doesn't help anybody, but it also doesn't help you. You need a Brit that's going to come in and go, I can play 8, 9, 12, 15, 16 minutes and help your organization. Where do these Brits come from, Stewie?
Oh, listen, like I said, there's no easy fix. There's no quick fix. There's no easy answer. I think if we were ever to get to a situation where what you're portraying is the only way would be if British ice hockey sucked it up for over a decade, and there was no priority in terms of the national team, no priority in terms of the elite league, and we fell back to, say, an 8 import league, and we went to, and this is actually an idea that came from that I remember Paul Thompson talking to me about, if we all fell back to 5 o'clock 6 practices, semi-pro, so that all these Brits can work, do their trades, and come back.
Not only that, though, Stewie, like, how many guys have you just signed out of fucking U Sports that have got degrees and want to be a financial wizard, that all of a sudden can now go, I'm going to go to the UK because you know what? I've just got a degree in economics and business and this and that, and I can go over there, and from fucking 9 a.m. until 5, I can be on the laptop, I can be stocks and shares, I can be doing all of this. And that's going to allow you to let that guy come and play in the UK for 350 quid a week, because he just made 9 grand in the stock market that fucking day. He doesn't give a shit about his 350 quid a week. And we can get guys that way, because that's how Stratton get guys. Stratton get guys because they live in London and they're on a business course and they're from Slovakia and they're from wherever they're from.
Yeah.
We've got to look at different angles to get boys in.
I think it's just a matter of where the league wants to be, right? And I think now, like within the last decade, you've got Champions League, you've got teams competing at that level. The league is at an all-time high, and I shouldn't say all-time high. I mean, Super League days were another level, but we're not far off that now. And the more imports, it just allows the depth to be a little bit better and stuff like that. Listen, at the end of the day, any Brit can probably back up what I'm saying. I would love to see a situation where we had enough British talent where we could go at least 10 imports and fill the rest with British guys. And then if there was Brits that were knocking on the door that don't have places to play and we had to go down, then UK ice hockey's in a good place. But like I said, we can sit here and beat our heads against the wall about what the solution is. But until there's major investment into the sport itself and ice rinks added into the country, I just don't see a solution. I mean, even if you say there is enough,
it was crazy, Shui.
But we're battling ice time with figure skaters, with public skating, with this and that. So there's no priority for ice hockey.
No, but Shui, right? We talk about areas of countries.
Well said.
Areas of countries, right? We talked about our little hypothetical thing we do before. This was on a prior episode. We had Nats Aldridge. She just won the playoff championships with Queen Bees, former Queen Bee legend, GB legend. And we spoke about things in areas and the GB women and the fact that our girls, they play 20 games. It starts in September, it finishes in May. So there's 5 weeks with no fucking games. You play a game on a Sunday and it's not oh yeah, let's get ready, we're going again tomorrow. It's oh yeah, the next game's on March 11th. You're like, what? It's fucking February the 1st. We're talking about. No, that's our next game. So my theory was, and I shot an idea out there. from September to November, 0 games in the ladies' league, and we have showcases, and so it's Bristol, Swindon, and Cardiff. It's Leeds, Manchester, and fucking I don't know, Whitley Bay. It's Bracknell, Slough, and Guildford. Do you know? 3 teams. And let's get all the best players on the ice. Let's get some good coaching down there. Let's get some GB coaching down there. But that's what you do for the first 2 months instead of playing any games, because the men's schedule fucks that up. And we understand that. And we understand the ladies are kind of...
Okay, so where's the coaching coming from?
No, this is what I'm going to say. But now, because you've got 3 teams now in one location on one day, you can now send GB under 16 women's coach to go there. And you can send the GB men's coach to go there, and you can start actually getting coaching in locations. And then guess what? November comes around, and there's only actually 20 weeks left until the end of the season. Now there's a game a weekend. There's none of this. You don't play any games for 6 weeks. And how the fuck are you supposed to get any better at playing ice hockey if you play a game on November the 1st and your next game is December the fucking 27th? Like, how are you going to get any better, right? And then we expect they're going, oh yeah, we should get promoted out of this division. These girls play 5 games before getting to the world champs. The world champs are in April. Season started in September. They played 6 games. How are they supposed to get better? Like, we don't help ourselves in this country, and we don't help ourselves in this country because nobody calls.
But here's the point I'm making is everyone wants to point the finger, but there's not enough ice rinks in the country. There's not enough ice time to cater to everyone at all levels. There's not, like, we at Coventry, we don't even have as much ice time as I need to try and be as best as we can be.
At pro level.
We can't get a pregame skate on a weekend, okay? So we can never pregame skate on a weekend, and that's not the fault. I'm not shitting on anybody. They're a business plan at ice. They have to maximize it. They need their public skating. They need all that stuff. But this is a huge issue when you're fighting for ice time against figure skating, public skating, businesses, stuff like that. Where you compare it to our level, East Coast League in the States. Like, those teams are in their rinks, and they for the most part get free reign of whatever ice time they need. Do you know what I mean? So it's such a big question, and we could sit here, beat our heads against the wall of what the solution is, but until there's major investment, until there's some rinks added, like, I would love to see a rink up in the Northeast. Like, I spent a year in Newcastle.
Yeah.
That is hockey country.
Oh,
I wish rinks
Durham was Durham before Newcastle were even ever a thing. Like,
Durham,
it's been a hotbed for so long.
Whitley Bay, Newcastle, they love hockey up there. Like, West Coast of Scotland. Like, there should be more.
Think about the South Coast of England. You have and there's always been teams in and amongst all the areas you've ever said, yeah. Cornwall, Devon, Dorset. There's never been a fucking ice rink there. We could literally be living on, like Newfies or like West Coast boys. You could just be sitting on like some fucking mutants that are 14 years old and 6'4" and 110 kilos. Hey, who knows? Maybe that's our fucking mutants down in Cornwall. We've never had an ice rink to figure it out. Like, we've never had an ice rink in that vicinity of the our country where we could go, oh my God, we've got some big, old, strong boys that live down Cornwall way. They can skate fast, they can hit. Oh my God, we've taught them how to play hockey. Amazing. But it's when it comes down to rinks, you're right.
We can speak to the death, but at the end of the day, my biggest answer is more investment, more ice rinks, and through that, you could start looking at some of these other things that we're talking about and creating better systems, better development programs, and stuff like that.
Right, we've kept you for quite a while. It's now gone midnight in Vienna. Mr. Mark over there,
I'm fucking knackered.
Our European correspondent, is getting tired. Right, let's talk about your testimonial because, mate, you've done it. You've done
amazing.
You've done the 10 stretch +1 COVID and everything else, and now it's testimonial. So tell the people, well, where it's going to be, when it's going to be. Give me a couple of exclusives of some bodies you're going to get over there lacing the boots up for the boys.
So yeah, July 1st at the Skydome in Coventry. It's I've just finished my 11th year, going into my 12th year, and look, at the end of the day, I appreciate the acknowledgement from the club. I'm glad they granted it to me, but my biggest excitement is to bring back some old names, both import and British. Like I said, I don't like to differentiate between the two, but
yeah, the boys will have you up in the change room if you do it.
Guys like Dan Carlson and Neil Martin, and even
legends. Neil Martin, by the way, might be still. He's still in my elite league top 5. There's not many. There's not maybe top 3, and there's not many that's got close, even kind of close.
Oh, like we got Giz coming back, Gareth Owen and Jonathan Weaver, and
all the boys,
and James Pease and Tom Pease and Joe Henry. The guys.
What about Hilton? Is Hilton putting the fucking boots on?
I never played with Hilton ever. I never.
You should just get him there for Coventry Blaze legendness.
We got Shuggy coming down, Sean Johnson.
Yeah.
I didn't play with Shuggy, but I
played with Shuggy and Slough. Great guy.
Yeah, I got to know him over the years, and Tasker. I remember I was talking to Tasker, and he was with Shuggy, and I said, "Hey, Tasker, you're coming down for my testimonial?" And Shuggy was like, "Hey, I'm coming too," and I was like, "Fucking right, come down." So look, it's going to be a good event. Like at the end of the day, I think it's not just a celebration of what I've done; it's a celebration to bring the Blaze culture to light, like players of old, some current players, and some future players as well. So, it should be a good event. We decided to do it in the off season because I didn't want to battle anything Blaze wise and stuff like that. And I thought by July that, there might be some more interest for people to take in a hockey event by July. But the only downfall is we didn't know that was Godiva Festival that weekend. So that was a bit of a fuck up, but it is what it is. But no, we're excited.
Right. I want to say a fantastic achievement. I want to say you've done amazing things at Coventry with Fife. So in general, you've been a great servant to British hockey, and especially I have a lot of respect for what you're doing in Coventry. Especially, I've always seen you as a side that's recruited young Brits.
Yeah.
I know you've had deals in the past with some Peterborough Phantoms players on 2-ways and stuff, and just the way that you're actually bringing in the crop of youth and giving them their taste of elite league hockey is exactly what I love to see within British hockey. And I think a lot of people within the league, I know some are, but a lot could look up to you in that respect.
And hey, listen, I appreciate that very much. And I think it's important that, look, at the end of the day, we all want to win now. But at the same time, when my day comes, and it will come at some point where I leave Coventry, I want to make sure that I leave things in place for the next person to have success as well. So signings like Hopkins and Hazeldine, they do help us now, but they're also moves that should help us for the future. Maybe this is my last year. I'm not saying that. I'm not suggesting that. But if it is, I want to make sure that I don't just exhaust all resources and leave the next guy that comes in.
Not just giving the next guy limp dick, are you? You're not just gonna go, here you go. Here's the 4 guys I've got. Fucking good luck. You're gonna go, right, this is a wagon. You've got 2 young British guys, you got a goalie, you got this, you got that, you can literally genuinely leave excited and go, hey, I've left you in the best possible stance. But let's move away from that though, because we're getting to near the end of this interview. I did promise everyone we was going to talk about your career. We don't have time to fucking smash all of it, but we are going to talk about the fact you played for my boy AJ Galante's team, the Danbury Trashers. You played with my boy AJ's team, right? So we had AJ on this podcast. Might be one of the most down-to-earth, nicest fucking human beings I've ever had the pleasure of talking to. I'm a big respect what he's doing, because he's bringing boxing to the city of Danbury, and he's getting kids off the street, and he's getting them world titles and shit. It's madness. But he also had you clowns down there playing ice hockey for a little bit, and it just so unfolded one of the wildest stories in ice hockey history. Did you know you're about to be a part of ice hockey history and you just stepped into it? how did you end up down there, and what the fuck was it like when you were a part of the Danbury Trashers?
It was it was phenomenal. I mean, I'd spent my first 2 years pro in Fort Wayne, and then I'd signed back in Fort Wayne for my third year, and we got into a little bit of trouble with injuries in Fort Wayne. I'd had a brief incident off the ice that I don't need to go.
Young guy.
Yeah,
young guy off ice incident. Man,
but
skim along that.
AJ had called the GM in Fort Wayne and said, "I want Danny Stewart. I think he's what we're missing." And he offered two guys, 2D men, which I think we were down to 4D at the time. So I got traded for 2D men, and I remember going to Danbury in November, and I showed up, and they were playing the night I arrived, and they were playing the Richmond River Dogs, and Morasti was there, and he ended up fighting that. I said Mike Wolf, I think big Mike Wolf, and man, it was unbelievable. And I was in the box with AJ and Jimmy and talking, and I was like, okay, like this is going to be something different than I'm used to. But Morasti ended up leaving like literally 2 days later. He'd gone to sign in the Quebec Senior League, and but it wasn't long before I recognized that it was, you'd heard some stories and stuff like that, but nothing to be sure. But as I got to be there, AJ was phenomenal. He loved me. Jimmy loved me. I was in the lineup every night, and they wanted me to play a certain role. And the one thing I was grateful for is I think my first 2 years in Fort Wayne, I'd had something between 30 and 35 fights. And when I went to Danbury, I thought, oh man, I'm gonna have to fight even more. But actually, it was the opposite because
you had 9 guys.
Yeah.
Stacked.
Look, and I'm not afraid to admit it, man. There was like Carlisle Lewis, Ryan Barnes, Dave McIsaac, Brad Wingfield. I mean, we were loaded with heavyweights. So I remember Tyler Willis. Actually, Tyler Willis is
he
tough.
He came over here for a bit, eh?
Yeah, tough as they come. And I think I fought Willie 4 times during my career, but I remember one time in Danbury, we kind of got into it a little bit, and I'm like, yeah, fuck, you want to go? And he was like, fuck, Stu. He's like, I got to worry about 8 guys ahead of you. And I was like, hey, no problem. Off. But it was nuts. But I will say this, AJ and Jimmy treated us like gold, man. We had our team that year, we had something like 4,600 American League games. We were stacked, really stacked. And there was guys that had played 6-7 years in the American League that were like, this is the best we've ever been treated. Meals on the road. There was no per diem. We got credit card, like order whatever you want, 3 meals a day. We had food on the bus. We, travel was good. Hotels were good. And, everyone was paid more than they probably were worth at that level. And, housing.
Sounds like Red Hockey Media, Telford Tigers, fucking 2012. That's what blew the EPO up.
Hey,
we just need a New York gangster involved. So obviously you then part of that, and then we had AJ on, and we talked to him. What a fucking good guy, yeah. And I thought the documentary could have took any route, yeah. And I don't think they threw him and the old man under the bus. I think they really made what it really was, and that like the guys loved him. And when you sit and talk to him, you can go 17 or not. He's just a nice kid. I could play for this kid. He's got heart of a lion. What was it like for you when you just found out all the shenanigans of the off ice side of things?
It was good, man. I agree.
It was good.
Listen,
I love that.
There's little moments that I think we can sit here and try to come up with the best story that ever imaginable, but there was so many things. I think the documentary was phenomenal. I think it highlighted the good parts of Danbury Trashers, and maybe, I guess it depends on the person and how you translate it, but just little moments like, AJ would be in the room before every game with about 3 guys behind him, and they came around and just knocks. I've never given so many knocks in my life than I did. The Danbury rink, there was a practice rink joined to it, and our dressing room was at the end of the practice rink, so we had to walk down some stairs and around like a quarter of like the around the whole end zone, and then come out the side door into the next rink to go out for games. So we came out and there was like 300 fans lined up from the bottom of our stairs all the way around half the rink to the next rink, like just knocks. It was unbelievable. And those are the little things I remember, man. But they were so good to us. I remember one time Jimmy asked me, he's like, "Do you want to come by and see the trash yard?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to see what it's like." And it was me and a guy named Donnie Grover. He called us over. So Dave McIsaac picked us up and said, "Yeah, Jimmy wants to talk to you guys. Wants you to see the yard." And we're like, "Okay." And we showed up, and a couple of Jimmy's guys were with us too. And I remember they were taking us through the trash yard, and like, this is how we recycle. They go on conveyor belts. It was an unbelievable system. Conveyor belts, they almost like square bale all the trash and throw it on and whatever. And I remember looking at Donnie, and like these two guys, Jimmy guys, were behind us, and I'm like, "Fuck!" I'm like, "Are we getting whacked here? What's going on?"
What am I getting done?
Well, like, and then just went up to Jimmy's office, and he was so awesome. Like, I love the guy. He had me over for dinner a few times, but yeah, I mean, I could sit here and tell a story for hours, but yeah, it was a phenomenal experience. We got treated so good, and the documentary was accurate. I mean, they treated us like family. Absolutely, no question.
Well, we're gonna let you go here, but I'm gonna just one thing on like what AJ had to say. Like when AJ talked about you guys, I've done this shit a long fucking time now. That was a genuine dude, like that genuinely cared about you guys. Every single one of you, whether you were a fucking plug that just went out there to fucking drop the mitts, or you were the leading scorer, like he genuinely actually cared. And by the way, for a 17-year-old kid,
Yeah,
he didn't do fucking bad, did he? He didn't do
Great.
bad.
Yeah,
Like those
he
rosters he put together, right?
What do
I'd
you
play
mean?
for him.
he did.
I'd play for him.
Absolutely. I mean, the money they were spending didn't hurt either, though, right?
I'm sure it didn't hurt.
But he did. He was, you know what? He the best way to describe it, I almost feel like Jimmy was like that 17, 18-year-old that goes on PlayStation and creates his own team on PlayStation NHL hockey and gets to build his own team. I almost feel like he was the kid that got to fulfill that fantasy, right?
100%.
And it was phenomenal. And he was good at it, man. He was always on the phone. He was always orchestrating deals, and we had guys in and out. I mean, I got there in
Those
November.
boxing promotions killing it right now.
Yeah, listen, he's got a heart of a lion, that guy, and I have so much respect for him, and I'm glad he's doing well, and he's doing a lot for the sport of Danbury, but a lot of people in Danbury as well.
Stewie, we've had you for ages.
That's been great.
I would be remiss not to go back down to the old school well of 4,000 and counting. Best player you've ever played with. We're going to go cheesy style. Best player you've ever played with or against?
Holy fuck, that's a tough one.
Well, they're going to get tougher, so I thought
You know,
that was
I
an
think
aperitif.
Yeah, I think probably played with. I mean, this goes right back to my Bantam days at Notre Dame. I played with Vinny LeCavier and Brad Richards on the same Bantam.
That'll do it.
So I'd have to say those two. I mean,
by the way, I went and played in Tampa when I was 16, and I was a season ticket holder, and Vinny LeCavier is my favorite ever player.
Yeah. So I mean, I think those two are.
What didn't he have, by the way?
Who?
Vinny. What didn't he have? He had everything.
Oh yeah. He was
every single fucking thing that you could fucking think of an ice hockey player that you want. He had all of it.
He was a phenomenal talent. Yeah, absolutely. I think probably in today's game, the only thing you might say is like his skating was average. He had long strides, but he wasn't the fastest. But I think he would have been fine because
6'3" and just big.
Yeah, he was so skilled. He was like obviously not the same skill level as Lemieux, but he was like similar in how they moved and you know what I mean.
When I was watching there on a regular basis, the year I played in Florida, 2001, 2002, so it was him. Brad Richards, Dave Andreshuk, Mike St. Louis, and he did everything that you could ever imagine. But Brad Richards, this was a guy that you were fucking like unbelievable.
He was.
Mad story on that year. Do you know who else popped up a few times and was one of my favorite players as a British kid over there watching? Sheldon Keefe popped up from the AHL on a call up. Just running fucking guys. Like, he had nothing else. He had nothing else. Came up from the A, he was just fucking killing guys, and it was amazing. But now he goes and gets his shot in the NHL.
Yeah, I did. I mean, I didn't play with or against Sheldon, but Brad Richards. I mean, he came to Notre Dame from Nova Scotia, or sorry, PEI. He was from
Prince Edward Island.
But he unbelievable talent in terms of how he saw the game. Like, he was a horrible skater when he was younger.
Really?
Horrible. And that was probably going to be his downfall, but he worked on it, and he got to the point where he was an okay. And we're talking about a guy that won the Conn Smythe, won a Stanley Cup, like. But everything else, I mean, I remember playing with him for a little bit. I mean, you'd be driving the net, and the puck would be on your stick before you even knew it was there.
Just been like that.
Phenomenal, yeah. So
okay, so that's your best coach you ever played for.
Best coach I ever played for. Ooh. A tough one. It's funny because I get people interviewing me and they ask me best player I've had or my favorite player that I coach, and I can never come up with an answer because I mean, Tomo's certainly up there. Tomo in terms of how he brought groups together and managed groups and got the best out of guys. He knew when to push, he knew when to hold back. Tomo's definitely up there. I had a couple of coaches at Notre Dame that were legendary, like Rod Collins. He runs.
You're so young and it's so developmental in your
career.
But
they were, he played a little bit in the American League back in the day, and he runs an academy out of Pilot Mound, Manitoba right now. And Barry McKenzie is a Hockey Canada legend. He played a little bit in the NHL, Team Canada back when they were separate from NHLers. And I mean, those two guys are legends at Notre Dame, and they taught me a lot growing up. So maybe because that was during my development years, they had more impact. But yeah, I'd have to say those guys. Yeah.
What about the toughest guy you ever played with or against?
Toughest guy I ever played with? Probably Brad Wingfield.
Yeah.
Good answer.
We'll maybe talk about him again in a little while. What about a player you played against?
Oh, against.
I mean, what about the Elite League? Let's keep it Elite League. You were here for a fucking long time. And it's changed a lot now, but they have been some of the toughest hombres that have ever put on a fucking pair of skates that have played in the Elite Ice Hockey League. Let me tell you that for facts. So all you North Americans that are listening, we've had all your tough guys over here. We had Wade Vidak. We've had Eric Cairns. We've had mutants upon mutants upon mutants. Stuart, you've been there for a long time. Talk me through these guys.
So I'm obviously I'm an angry small guy, right? With small man syndrome. So when I hear toughest, isn't necessarily the best, the supreme fighter or whatever. So I'd say outside of the UK, I remember a guy named Trevor Sen in the United League.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
and it's a left and a left and a left and a left. That's Trevor Sen. If anyone's
I remember I think it was my second year in Fort Wayne, and we were playing against them, and we had a guy named Shane Kenny who was a big boy, 6'4", like 240. This guy he was a tough boy. Didn't go looking for it, but when he had to, he was just tough as nails. But they fought three times one night. There's so many videos from back in those days I wish that were on the internet like they are today, but like Shane Kenny like beat the shit out of him 3 times in a row. And I'm talking like Trevor Sen was like 5'8", but like jacked too. And I shouldn't say beat the shit because Trevor Sen stood in there like toe to toe, but like Kenny's just weight and height and just his power he just overpowered him, and he fought him 3 times. And he was hitting him with bombs bombs, and Sen wouldn't go down. And then I remember, like, Sen probably doesn't even remember, but I remember, like, a couple weeks later, we ended up playing them, and I was running around a little bit, running my mouth and finishing checks and driving people crazy. And he came up to me, and I fought some tough boys back in those days, but he was similar size to me. And I remember he tapped me on the shin pads, and he's like, "Hey, you want to go, tough guy?" And I said, "Fuck." I said,
Nope. Nope.
I just saw a 6'4", 240-pound guy hit you as hard as he could. You didn't even flinch. I was like, "What? I don't have any interest to fight you, man."
Yeah, I'm good.
I'll never forget that. Another guy I remember too was he actually had a stint in Basingstoke. What's his first name? Melanson. Was it Dean Melanson?
I played with him, Dean Melanson, yeah.
Dean Melanson.
Was he like, we saw him, like, he came in, saw the apartment, I think, played 2 games, got on a fucking flight.
Yeah.
That was it. Like, he was gone.
He was in Muskegon when we had big rivalries with them when I was in Fort Wayne. And I wouldn't say from a fighting standpoint, but he was nasty. Like, you went to the net, he was breaking your arm, he was breaking your back, he was doing something. He was an unbelievable hitter. Like, I could sit here for hours and talk about toughness back in those days. It was certainly a different era.
Right. Fine, Stu. We've kept you for ages, but we're going to finish with a story for the boys. Anything that you've kind of been sitting on, or you haven't got off your chest as of yet? Something that maybe a little bit more PG in status now that you're an elite league coach. We might let you off the hook a little bit, and you don't have to go too crazy. But it sounds like you had some fun back in those Danbury CHL days. Maybe you could give us a story from back then.
Yeah, I mean, I got quite a few stories, but like I said, I'll keep it. I mean, we mentioned him earlier, Brad Wingfield. I love Winger. Me and Winger got along really good. Called me when I first got there. I remember him calling me his little pocket. He was like, "You're my pocket goo." He's like, "You can fight all the guys I don't want to fight." And I was like, "Hey, whatever." And I'm like, "Fuck, what have I got myself into?" But so that year when I was there, he was recovering from the broken leg. So if anyone that watched the documentary, it kind of went back and forth from season 1 to season 2, right? They didn't really differentiate. So season 1, he broke his leg. I got traded there season 2. So he was recovering when I first got there. He wasn't playing. And first off, like, unbelievable that he was able to come back. Like, they told him he wasn't playing hockey again. But he was so determined to get this guy back that he was in the gym every day. He physio, everything he could do. Like, he did it. And so I remember one day I just kind of out to lunch, walked into the dressing room, and I was la-di-da, and I was like, "Hey boys, what's going on?" And none the wiser. And Winger comes storming into the room, and he walks through the Danbury Trasher logo. So we had a big fine if anyone walked over the Trasher logo. So me being the rat that I was back in the day, I'm like, "Winger," I'm like, "You stepped on the fucking logo." And he's like, "Stewie, shut up." And I knew something was off with him, but again, I was an idiot back.
You were like, "I'm going to see if I get punched in the face here."
I'm like, "No, you stepped on the logo." I'm like, "You stepped on the logo, Winger. You're fine. And he's like, "Dude, shut the fuck up." And I'm like, "Winger, you are fine, man." I'm like, "You stepped on the logo, no questions asked." And I remember looking over at guys, and I remember Jeff Daw, a guy named Jeff Daw, and I'll never forget to this day, and Drew Amacholi, who I'm still close to this day. And they were like looking at me. We're like going like this. And then I look back, and Winger is like full sprint across the dressing room. And he like full-fledged in the Matrix, like jumped in the air and like drop kicked me dead square in the chest as hard as he could. And I went flying. I put a big dent in the wall behind my store, and it sucked every bit of wind out of me. And I was like, and he stood over him and he was like, "I told you to shut up." And I was like, "Oh, hey, yeah, okay, good." And everyone in the room was just like this. And then Winger like went out, and as soon as he left the room, once guys realized I was okay, they were like, they just started laughing, man, because they were, what the hell happened? But the story goes, and this is honestly my fault. The story goes was I went in that morning, and what I didn't realize is that they had posted the playoff roster that morning. Okay.
Oh,
And
no. He wasn't in
in
the
those
roster.
leagues, you had to shorten your roster, and some guys got left off the playoff roster. And Winger, because Winger had so many issues with his leg and battled back. And to be fair to Winger, like, I'll sit here and talk about his toughness. Like, Winger could play, man. He had 20 goals, I think, one year I think back then it was the WCHL. Like, he could skate, he could shoot the puck. Like, he was a good player. He wasn't one of these guys that just went out and fought and was done. He was a very good player. And but he was left off the playoff roster that morning, and I had no idea they were posting it that morning. I didn't even know if I was on it, and he had been left off. So, like, obviously he was a player that was going through that, being left off after everything he'd been through those 2 years, and I just caught him at the wrong moment, and he snapped. He ended up apologizing to me after, but I actually ended up apologizing to him, and I said, "Look, Winger, I would have done the same to me if I would have caught you at that time, but." Oh boy, he caught me good. Like, I'm talking like full, like, 20-yard sprint drop kick. I was like, I was ready to go into the coach's office and say, I think I'm off the playoff roster.
I'm done. Done.
Yeah.
Done.
Unbelievable.
Stu, tell everybody once more where they can find all your details about your player, your testimonial. I know it's coming right here in July, but tell people where they can get the details. Maybe give us a little exclusive of some of the names they can be seeing putting on a Danny Stewart 39 jersey in Coventry this July.
Yeah, so all our links, like covblazehockey.co.uk, obviously Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, they're all on there. So you can go via the website, or you can go on all those social media outlets. You know, we got guys like Dan Carlson, Neil Martin. You know, we've got guys like Peter Hirsch coming back, Gareth Owen, Sean Johnson, Michael Tasker, like some real good British legends. We're gonna have some great raffle prizes, like game used jersey. I do believe actually that AJ has sent me some Trasher jerseys as well.
Of course he has.
Nice.
With myself, Ruben Nader, and Carlisle Lewis, all are former guys.
Really
former Blaze.
That's really fucking cool.
Yeah, guys that have played for Coventry.
Yeah,
and
that's cool.
So a lot of good prizes up for score. Wade Belak, we're gonna have a Wade Belak stick for auction as well. God rest his soul.
R.I.P.,
but yeah,
man.
a lot of good people and a lot of good prizes for sure.
I was gonna let you go, but you just brought him up, so I'm gonna have to ask you about him because I can't not. I was lucky enough to meet Wade as a 15, 16-year-old young British kid who was with Toronto Maple Leafs out in Penticton Hockey Academy. I met him 1 year, and then I was lucky enough to meet him like maybe 2 years later when I was old enough to have a beer in Canada at that point. And we got to have a fucking pint. That was like pretty cool for like the young British kid who idolized this guy that smashed bases like in the NHL. And then I got to have a pint with him, and I spoke to him, and I was just like, huh? This guy fucking punches people in the face for a living. He was the nicest human being I think I've ever spoke to, whilst being the fucking scariest man I've ever just been stood next to at the bar. I was like, if this goes south, I have zero chance of ever doing anything. He was so big, he was so strong, but he was so nice. Like, you got to experience that. Like, how sad is it to lose him, and how cool was it to play with him?
Well, listen, Waddy, I actually didn't have the pleasure to meet him or play with him. He was a couple years before
you.
He was there during the Grand Slam year, and I came 2 years later. So, but listen,
just before your time.
He left his mark on our organization. I mean, his frame, his pictures are hanging everywhere, and like everyone that ever, like Paul Thompson to this day says he was, like you just said, he was a beast on the ice, but he was the most pleasant, nicest guy off the ice. And everyone that's, you know, Nicky Sherlock, Stephen Small, you know, Andy Buxton, Mike Kelly, everyone that was still at that organization back then, you know, speak the world about him. Everyone that's ever played with him says the same thing. So, you know, he's a true ambassador. for our organization. It was sad to see that he left this world way too soon.
Well, his brother came over and carried the legacy on.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the B-Lacs are a big part of the Coventry Blaze, as are you, Stewie. We wish you the best of luck for the 23-24 season. We appreciate the time that you've taken to come on here. We hope to get some more of your boys on next year. We've been lacking on the Coventry Blaze front. Me and Mark we've spoke about it. We want to get more of your guys on, but we wish you the best, and hey, long may your career in the UK continue. You've been a stalwart of British hockey, and we're lucky to have you here. And we're lucky to have imports that want to stick around and give back to the British game. So this is all we ask for them from the imports, and you're one of the guys that went on and done that. So we appreciate it.
Okay, and listen, guys, I appreciate you having me on, and I love what you guys are doing. Really do, and keep going. I appreciate it.
Thanks very much.
Dewey, this has been awesome. Everybody else, if you haven't already, that's got to be worth you dropping a subscribe. It's got to be worth you dropping a comment and a like right down in there. If you want to help us out even more, you could buy a ticket to our charity game, ticketlab.co.uk/4,000 counting. Saturday, the 5th of August in Slough, supporting motor neuron disease plus a children's cancer charity. We'll be letting you know of that very, very soon. But for now, this has been Roy, Mark, and Danny Stewart. Peace out.
Peace.